ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages. It's Mark Robinson here, once again, your host of Wear Many Hats. You won't know this, people, because we've been releasing in the background, but we haven't recorded a podcast for about 4 weeks, which is really unusual. So hopefully I can remember how to do it. But today I am joined by a young gentleman, actually, by the name of Rob Davies, who is the Head of Property Management at Adapt. Hello, Rob. How you doing?
Thanks for inviting me on.
No problem at all.
Lovely being here.
Yeah, you having a good day?
Yeah, it's been good so far. Busy.
Yeah. Have you come far?
And St Paul's up, so it's half-hour walk.
Did you walk or did you get the tube?
I did walk. Yeah,
You did walk?
Yeah, the sun came out, and I thought may as well make the most out of it.
I'm doing it.
Good walk.
Avoid the central line at all costs.
100%.
Yeah,
It's too hot. It's too stuffy.
It is.
Too
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, listen, Rob, thank you very much for joining us today. Absolutely fantastic to have you here. As I start with everybody that comes to see us on the show, tell us a little bit at first how you got into facilities management, and also why have you stayed in it for so long?
So I guess like most people, I left school. I finished school at 18.
Right.
And thought, what do I do next? And like so many people, went straight off to university.
Yeah.
Went and studied history and American studies, which obviously doesn't lead into an awful lot of careers.
Yeah.
And then I left university.
Cool subject, though.
It's a cool subject.
Yeah.
Like many people, I left university at 21 with a degree, but no real career path.
Right. But you had a very good time.
I had a very, very good time.
A very, very good time, which is
I enjoyed myself more. I think I was better at the social side than the academic side.
I'm sure other people would feel the same.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that leave.
I think there is.
It's very similar.
It's the experience, isn't it? I think sometimes. Yeah.
Grow.
Yeah,
What
you
they like-
grow as an individual.
Just what they like to say. You grow as an individual.
Yeah. Expand your horizons.
100%.
Yeah.
So I left university, still not having a clue what I wanted to do. And then I ended up temping for a couple of years. I ended up working for Cambridge County Council.
Oh, really? Oh, in the public
In
sector?
the public sector.
Right.
Worked for 9 months in children's social care.
Yeah.
Then did a couple of months just floating about supporting different departments, and I ended up working in their facilities management team, looking after. They had a fleet of pool cars, and they had a help desk, and they had some caretaker homes and all their council buildings. So really sort of piqued my interest in FM. I think just really, just an interest in, you've got a problem, you've got to solve it, and how do you get there, and that sort of side of it. And then decided that actually I quite enjoyed facilities management. I could see a career in it.
Right.
Decided that I wanted to move to London.
Right.
Came to London, joined the City of London. So stayed in public sector, but
Oh, really?
kind of in a weird. They've got an investment property portfolio. So
Yeah, they do, yeah.
They directly manage a load, or at the time, directly managed a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
So I worked as a facilities administrator there for a couple of years.
Right. Was there a secret handshake or anything like that?
The city's always got secret handshakes, dodgy dealings.
Yeah.
Dodgy dealings going on all over the place.
It's its own country.
It's
Anyway.
it's just a very, very neat. It's an old institution. There's a
niche,
reason why
yeah.
they've been around for so many years.
Yeah, of course.
But it was quite a nice. They were very, very supportive. Great as sort of someone quite early on in their career, sort of nurturing, developing. There's a lot of time to actually learn how to do stuff.
Because the public sector, obviously, it can be quite convoluted, I would say. I think people would agree. So it must have been quite hard to navigate around that at the beginning, I suppose.
Yeah, there was a lot of big contracts. You obviously have to go through a very robust tender process, and only really sort of the bigger players were winning. So we had people like ISS and Mighty delivering cleaning and M&E maintenance. So, those sort of partners aren't necessarily always the most quickest to respond or the most flexible.
Right.
But again, sort of that was the city model at the time. And then that really led me into FM.
Right.
I really enjoyed it. And then I decided that I'd had enough of public sector. I'd done, I think, 3 years by that point. And went and joined Broadgate Estates and worked on Broadgate.
Right, okay.
As an assistant property manager.
How did you find that transition from public to private?
It was almost like I didn't know anything.
Really?
It was almost completely like starting again. I sort of knew a little bit about FM, knew the fundamentals.
Yeah.
But didn't really know how to operate in an actual managed building or where people were paying top rents, expecting a service, expecting outstanding sort of they wanted stuff done on time. You were working with some really good service partners.
So you had to completely realign how you thought then what property management was, because you came in with all of this, what you thought of experience, but it wasn't there when you got there, yeah.
Yeah, went out the window very, very, very quickly.
Right.
And then I spent the next 6 years at Broadgate Estate / British Land. And mainly on the Broadgate campus. So I started off as an assistant property manager, became a property manager, and then ended up soft landing completely at one of their brand new buildings on the Broadgate campus that they'd refurbished in 2019.
Right, okay.
And then after that, I went to CBRE.
Yeah.
Again,
The big green machine.
very, very different property management experience at CBRE. Was managing a mixed-use estate on a city Shoreditch border. And then I joined Adapt at the start of this year to head up their property management.
Oh, fantastic. And it's quite an exciting opportunity, obviously, with that, because you're doing something completely different, aren't you?
It's very different this time. So it's a brand new company. So setting up the company really from scratch, which is quite exciting.
That's really interesting as well, yeah, I get that,
Taking all the processes and all the stuff that you've learned and actually trying to...
over the years, and
applying it and creating how you want to work or how you've learned is the best way of working. And applying it across Adapt, which is really exciting.
Yeah, very much so. So obviously, that's kind of about, 10, 11 years of your career. You've advanced quite quickly through your career, I would say, within the industry. How have things like mentors impacted you throughout your career? And has anybody really kind of guided you to where you are now?
I think mentors is really interesting. You have mentors, I think, that some people have shaped your career. When I first went and worked for Broadgate Estates, my property manager was Angela Hayes, who'd been at Broadgate Estates for a number of years, and sort of helped me sort of start my career, and definitely sort of threw me in the deep end a couple of times. She was the one at Broadgate that actually helped shape, and then there was other people that sort of pop up every now and again, and will just you'll fall under their management for maybe a year, and then all of a sudden you sort of learn sort of different skills.
So kind of like you weren't necessarily expecting to learn something, but randomly you did.
You did, and just a different approach to stuff, and how people come at situations and issues for very different angles. Which I think puts you in the mind of other people. It's not just you sort of have a almost laser focus on some issues. Oh, this is how we need to do it. And then I remember there's sort of other managers that go, actually, have you thought about putting yourself in the position of this person, as an end user, or maybe, just adapt how you're thinking and just make it slightly different.
No, that makes sense. So because you were quite young, obviously, when you started. How old were you again when you started in FM?
So I went to the City of London when I was 22.
So just a whippersnapper, really.
Yeah, so I was quite young, I was a couple years out of university.
Okay.
22, 23 maybe.
So but obviously we have a lot of people that are young that listen to the show. What was your attitude going into it? Like, did you go in with I'm just going to shut my mouth, I'm going to learn, I'm just going to be open, I'm going to have... How did you navigate that world at 22, being quite young and things like that? What was your secret to absorbing the info and doing well?
I think it's interesting when you're quite young. You sort of come at it sort of initially you try and absorb everything, you try and learn everything, and then very quickly you think, I actually know it all. And very quickly you'll be put in a situation where you don't know it all, and all of a sudden someone will come in with more experience, and sort of always trying to absorb as much experience from the people around you. Everyone likes to think that they know it all, or I've worked in this situation, so therefore I know how to deal with this situation. Sometimes, there's some people that have been in the industry for an awful long time, especially when it comes to technical issues. And I've been fortunate throughout my career to work with some really good technical managers and to try and absorb all of their knowledge and know when you don't know something to sort of put your hand up and say, I'm not sure about this, or you've been in this situation, what did you learn from it? How have you coped with this? Trying to sort of lean on the wider industry.
Of course. So did you very quickly develop a network of people that you could go to in the event you came across something that you didn't think?
I was a bit slower.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah, it was probably only my probably second year at Broadgate Estates that I really started to develop my FM network. And
So it took you a bit of time for it to click. Would that be a?
I think for it to click, but also for me to just sort of build those relationships. And know the right people to go to.
Yeah.
I think I was a bit of a slower learner to go, actually, I know this person here. They've been in that situation, or they've had that building. LinkedIn wasn't quite as prevalent as it was.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
8 years ago, whereas now LinkedIn, you sort of suddenly go, I mean, I had it a couple of weeks ago when I needed a radio supplier, and all of a sudden you look at LinkedIn and go, I worked with this supplier before. They work in that industry.
Yeah.
So that just takes time.
Agreed.
It's working out who the right people is
to reach to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about things like learning and development then? Has that been an important part of your career?
I think, everyone's learning, everyone's developing. CBRE and British Land, and we're very, very good at supporting learning, cultivating this culture of continuous learning.
Yeah.
So I remember it was called BIFM at the time, but obviously now it's
I remember when it was BIFM. I
did my BIFM level 4 when I was at Broadgate Estates.
Right.
Which was, it's almost like going back to school with the amount of writing. It was big essays, but it was really good for putting a foundation of understanding of FM. And then, I went to a talk last night about energy, and that learning and development, that CPD, that just continuously talking to people and listening to what other people have to say, is so important.
Yeah.
The industry changes so quickly and so rapidly.
Well, and the technology is just crazy.
Smart buildings, technology is just so, what you know now is not going to be what you need to know in the next 2 to 3 years.
I agree.
People are still defining it. You've got these terms that are thrown out there, and people are still defining what it means in FM.
Yeah.
So if people are still defining it, you don't know. So you have to constantly be learning and developing.
It's a very fluid, dynamic industry, isn't it? It's like a river that's flowing continuously. There's always something else coming down, whether it's a tree trunk or a bunch of leaves. It could be anything.
And there's so many people that have got specialists, so they've all branched off, and all of a sudden they're an expert in one little niche part of FM now. They're actually trying to draw on their experience because they are experts in it, and you're just you know a lot, but you don't know everything.
Like a jack of all trades. I don't want to say the master of none bit, because that's not necessarily true. But I do think in the world of FM, you do have to be, that individual that has enough working knowledge about multiple subjects to be able to be effective. Would you agree?
Yeah, you have to know a little bit about everything. Yeah, and you have to know who to go to, because they do know everything about
the SME, the subject matter expert that can really push it forward for
100%. You just have to know when you're out of your depth. I think that's important, to sort of know your own limits and know your own restrictions, but have enough of a knowledge that if you're sitting in front of an occupier, which is ultimately who pays our bills, that you can talk confidently enough about a subject without. And you know enough about that subject to be able to deliver it in simple English to people that expect that service. But know in the background that you've got somebody there or a team of people that actually know the technical detail behind and can support you on it. And I think that's one of the key areas of FM is just making sure that, you're being able to communicate clearly, but also know when not over deliver, or not over promise, and not over.
Yeah, the ability to articulate it appropriately so that the people in the room understand it.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so if you were, what advice would you, let's say, there's a young 22-year-old out there somewhere, they're leaving university, they've listened to this podcast and they're like, it sounds like an all right career, that, I might look into it. What advice would you give somebody looking to break into the industry?
I think experience counts for an awful lot. Getting exposure to stuff and challenging yourself and trying to, trying to draw on. There's so many routes into FM.
Yeah.
People have come from all different types of career.
That's what's great about it, isn't it?
People start off as sort of receptionists. People have started off as engineers. They've started off as cleaners.
Yeah.
And then they've all gone, actually, I quite like the look of FM. It's a career. There's a lot of progression. Yeah. There's a lot of different angles that you could take off of it. So I think however you come into the industry is great. But from that starting point, it is talk to people, trying to draw from their own personal experiences and trying to expose yourself to as many different situations and not being afraid to sort of, jump into something and just get on with it. Because you learn so much more from doing a job and getting stuck in and, thrown in the deep end than you do from just sort of trying to learn from a distance or trying to sort of bluff your way through stuff.
Yeah.
You know, most people, and there are always a few awkward people out there, but most people, if you say, "Oh, I'm not too sure about something," but leave it with me, and then you go off and find an answer and come back to them, they'll much rather appreciate that than you just go in trying to lie or bluff.
Yeah.
People actually prefer honesty.
Yeah, I firmly believe I'm pretty good at saying I don't know. You know, it's one of my key attributes. So you know, if I don't know the answer to something, I won't try and blag it out because I have in the past, and it gets you in trouble.
It does. You end up getting caught out.
Yeah, you do. So you're better off saying, "Look, I don't know the answer. That I'll come back." So completely agree. So going back to things like what was Biffin but is now IWFM. Because everybody learns differently, don't they? Some people learn by doing, some people learn by sitting in front of a computer screen, some people learn by, you know, I don't know, you know, they've just got to absorb it. You know, do you think that people coming into the industry would really benefit from going through things like IWFM?
I think so. I think I've got some of the team are going through it.
Oh, really?
At the moment.
Right.
Yeah. And how it's taught now is very differently to how it was taught with me.
Really?
I think, you know, people learn in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Some people do like classroom based. Some people do
Some
like
do,
learning.
They like that engagement, don't they, of bouncing off people?
Yeah, just being in a room with someone and sort of having a conversation rather than someone just lecturing.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot more avenues to learning with IWFM now.
Yeah.
But there's also the other side to it, where you've got CPD events, where it's networking events. So you actually meet, you know, peer support is so important. Actually talking to people and sort of learning what's going on with them and how they've sort of gone through that journey.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. Did you find networking easy when you were younger, or did you find it like just
even to this day I find it difficult?
Oh, really?
I'd rather sit in a corner and wait for people to come to me than go around and have a conversation with different people. But it's something that I think it's quite rewarding.
Yeah.
When you've gone to an event and you go, "Oh, I spoke to this person, I spoke to that person, I learned this bit about this," or you build a connection to sort of catch up afterwards. It is quite rewarding, especially if you're a bit of an introvert. And you're going, "Well, actually, I'd much rather sit in a corner." So it's something that, you know, some people find it very natural.
Yeah, so you've kind of taken yourself out of what is comfortable for you, because you are a bit introverted. I'm guessing you are a bit introverted based on what you just said. So you've kind of had to force yourself into that scenario, but you found it to be rewarding when you did.
100%, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you just, you know, most people at a networking event are probably in the same boat as you are, where, you know, they might not know an awful lot of people there, but actually they've gone to an event to try and meet new people and try to, you know, develop a network. So most people are open for conversation. Most people like to talk about what they're up to, what they're doing, what the profession is. So most people actually enjoy that conversation. So it's just important to go to events and you know, meet people. And most people, if they see someone that's standing on their own, someone will approach them and go, "Oh, are you okay? Let's have a conversation. Where do you work?" All of that stuff. People don't generally just. It's not very. Yeah, it's not closed. Very closed door.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive extrovert, as you probably can tell. But even if I walk into a networking event and I don't know anybody, until I start talking to somebody, I feel uncomfortable. You know, but then once I start talking to somebody, I tend to feel okay. Yeah, and can kind of crack on with it.
And generally, if you meet one person who might know a couple of other people, they'll introduce you to the room. So it's quite
Well, the other thing is that the industry is quite small, isn't it? So 9 times out of 10, if you go to a networking event, you're gonna meet somebody who knows somebody that you know, and as soon as that happens, you've got a common interest. You've got something that you can kind of talk about. Oh, where did you meet him? Oh, you worked there. Oh, and you know, so it becomes a little bit more sort of free flowing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I find Broadgate Estates is one that everyone seems to have linked in at some point in their career. So as soon as you say,
I agree with that. Yeah.
I used to work for Broadgate Estates. They'll go, "Oh, I worked there on this period," and you go, "Oh, do you know this person or that person?" And then all of a sudden you'll have a conversation about buildings or people that you know.
Yeah, so that's a good piece of advice actually for young people. If they're going to their first networking event, you know, drop where you work as quickly as you can, and hopefully somebody knows somebody that works there that you know that you can have a conversation about, which is really cool. Yeah. Okay, so moving away from learning and development and networking, let's dive into, you know, sort of your technical expertise and discuss some of the subjects that are affecting the industry at the minute. One is obviously ESG. Okay, so we all know about ESG. We all understand how important it is. It's had various iterations over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, which I think you would agree.
Yep.
What are your views on it, Rob, in terms of how it started, how it's developed, and where do you think it's going?
I mean, obviously 2030 is so many people have set a 2030 target date to be net zero. And it's looming ever closer.
I think it's not. It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, everyone had these sort of grand ideas that, right, we're going to be electric straight away. Let's get rid of all these gas boilers and let's go down that journey and try and remove as many, emissions as possible. But I think reality, COVID had a massive impact, I think, on ESG. I think a lot of people, investment in buildings, especially managed buildings, slowed.
Yes.
For a couple of years. People are still recovering from that. And, if you're doing a service charge, and there's so much ups and downs with staff costs and supplier costs, all of a sudden, something starts taking a hit before you can't keep putting service charges up by significant amounts. So I think ESG is definitely...
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because there's still a budget. There's still a budget to work to, and it's still, the reality is this is still business, and business by its nature has to make money. Otherwise, that business fails. So it's that fine balance, isn't it? About how do you do that properly?
Having that route and having that roadmap to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so important making sure that actually, recording stuff. I think that's something that I don't think is done particularly well across a lot of buildings, is actually capturing
the data,
that data, and not just, from sort of energy used on that building, but also the scope 3 service partners and all the occupiers, deliveries, everything that's coming into a building. I don't feel like most of the industry's quite got there yet with actually capturing what a building's currently.
That's a very good point, actually.
If you look at platforms, there's so many platforms out there for capturing data, and so many of them miss so much of sort of supplier carbon and deliveries to a building, and actually how do you really measure a delivery to a building? Because if it's stopped off at multiple places, are you going from the end destination or the last drop off? Actually capturing that data is, I think we're still not quite there as an industry. I think some people are doing it better than others.
I mean, our industry, though, historically, it's kind of low margin as well, isn't it? Historically across the board, whichever way you look at it, it's heavy labour, low margin, and then you've got a little bit of burden in between that we have to manage and work with, and so on and so forth. So, I do think, though, I don't know if you agree, I actually think FM's pretty good at it. When you compare it to other industries that probably have, larger margins and things like that. I actually think FM professionals, yourself and other people that have been on the show, the ideas that they have and how they manage it and what they put in place with the budgets that they have, bearing in mind low margin, limited, things like that. I actually think that's pretty good. Could you imagine what we'd do if they gave us a good margin? We'd smash it out of the park, wouldn't we?
100%. I mean, there's a lot of passion in FM. And also I think most people are sort of sustainable conscious. So most people actually want to, switch off a light bulb and, save energy as much as possible. And we've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's only that there's a lot more light shone on sustainability now than there was sort of 20 years ago, that actually people are actually far more focused.
Yeah.
And I think where there's passion, it makes it a lot easier.
I do agree,
And, if you're reporting back to occupiers sort of how much carbon you've saved in a year, people like that. People put that in brochures and sustainability is such a operating sustainability.
Yeah. Well, we're doing it right now. We're building our impact report. So, it's one of those things.
So everyone wants to know how they've impacted the environment. I think also attracting young talent is so important, to attract young talent.
Very true.
Because most people, care more about the world that we live in and the community that we work in, more than they've probably ever done previously. So people actually want to work in places that are nice. People want to work in places that have got good customer service, but people also want to work in places that care about the planet and are doing their bit and not just pumping out tons and tons of carbon every year.
Yeah, without a doubt. So moving from the E to the S, which is the social element, what are your thoughts on that, and how do you think the industry has dealt with that as a whole? I mean, my view on it, I'll tell you my view, and I say it all the time. I don't think anybody does very well at it. I think we all try, but I think there's definitely better things that can be done.
It's dropped a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's dropped.
Yeah.
People go, I've done this bit of volunteering, or I've worked with this sort of charity, and we've done this for this charity day, and then they forget actually about sort of getting back out into the community and
Yes.
Sort of that sort of working with. I mean, I live in Bow, so there's quite a lot of. It's quite a deprived area of London still.
Yeah.
So, actually, people just turn up for a day and will do, I don't know, a beach clean, or they'll go off and do a little bit of, redecoration of a homeless shelter or something like that, and then they'll go away again, and people forget about it for another year, and then they'll put it in an impact report and say, this is what we've done, and they don't really think, how can we impact these communities on a long-term basis? How do we build that social sort of side to it, and how do we improve?
So I have an idea on this. I've said it before on the show, but I think, right, the way that you can impactful with the S, is if every company in FM, for example, they've all got a budget. Let's say some companies will have a budget of 1,000, others 20, whatever. You club it all together in one big pot, and let's say you've got 5 million per annum. Imagine what you could do with 5 million quid in a deprived area if it was focused on youth clubs. You said, do you know what I mean? Like that would be impactful change, wouldn't it?
Actually, turn up and be there day in, day out. That's I think that's the issue. I think youth centre. I mean, there's so much underfunding and so many cuts still in those sort of things, sort of private.
I don't care what anyone says. You stick three or four foosball tables in a youth centre, those lads won't be out there playing with knives. I'm telling you, they'll be at it.
I'll just be sitting, playing
foosball.
I
love foosball. It's brilliant.
It's good. I'm not very good at it. I haven't got enough hand-eye coordination. I don't think.
It's all in the wrist, mate. It's that snap. It's the snap when you strike the ball. It is. Okay, brilliant. And what about the G governance? Obviously, the industry's. We've pretty much got this. Governance we've got knocked together, haven't we? We're all right at that.
I mean, it's it's underlying so many different ways. I think we're very good at reporting, monitoring. There is a lot of good governance in FM. And I think we've been doing it for a long time. So I think it's probably the one that we excel at probably most.
Yeah, we probably started it, mate.
Possibly,
There's definitely someone from an FM background that said, I think we need a health and safety.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, it's been health and safety at work was 1974. So governance has been around for an awful lot longer than, an awful lot of other directions with.
It's quite weird, isn't it? When you ever think about the fact, because 1974, when it's not actually that long ago, so there was a whole 150 years of, the type of working environments that we have now, where people pay tax and go to work and all that stuff without it. I remember watching videos. Have you ever seen those videos of the BBC where these guys climb up Big Ben and things like that?
They're just on a little rope.
These little rope ladders.
You see these old videos. I mean, you still see videos of people doing silly stuff all over the place. So that photo of someone just who hasn't ever heard of a risk assessment or you see it all the time.
But if you think about the amount of lives that's probably saved over the course of 40, 50 years, it's actually probably a lot.
It's an awful lot. And obviously it always gets better with time, and it's a constant improving. Health and safety just constantly improves.
Well, it has to, doesn't it?
Numbers reduce, accidents in the workplace reduce, fatalities reduce. I think it might be on a little spike, but generally it's on a downward trend. So I think we've always done very well with governance because it has dictated.
I agree. Yeah, very good. Okay, artificial intelligence, mate. What do you think? Our toaster's going to talk to us soon. Where do you see it going with FM?
I think it's a real difficult one. People come to a building to work in. It's different in different sectors of FM. But if you think about property management, people come into a building and they want to interact with someone. They want a receptionist. So they want to. Most people want that interaction. They're coming into a workplace to work. Otherwise, everyone would just be sitting at home and working from home. So, do I think AI will fundamentally change how people interact in a building? Probably not.
Right.
But I think there's an awful lot of areas of AI that will come into how we're managing and operating those buildings in terms of analysing data and efficiency and maintenance, for example. Right. If we can record how many people have gone into a room, we can then therefore target where we're working and and target where our energies are. I don't think there's going to be little robots. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, cleaning's always got a little cleaning robot that pops up. And
they're never very good.
They're not very good. They're okay to just run around, and they're a nice gimmick. But are they ever going to replace a person? Not for a long time.
Unless you've got until you've got those did you ever see that film I, Robot with Will Smith?
Yeah.
Until you've got that fully functioning 5 fingers, 5 toes, 2 arms, 2 legs.
With a conscious and actually 100%. Have you seen the there's a little dog now that's like a security patrolling dog?
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuff like is that the same as having someone walk around?
No.
You could probably reduce the amount of time someone walks around, but you still need someone to physically walk around and just double check. It's like window cleaning. You see these AI window cleaning robots. But okay, you can do it. Maybe reduce the amount of times you go off and clean something. But are you actually going to just not do any other cleaning apart from a robot clean on a building?
Yeah, it's not going to sort the details, is it?
No, and you still need to get out there and have a physical check.
Yeah.
There's no better AI than the human body to go and actually look at stuff and assess stuff.
Yeah. So no T1000s.
No. Yeah.
But a drive towards more efficient processes and data capture.
100%. I think actually, FM's full of platforms. There's so many platforms out there.
And they all talk a different language.
They all talk a different language.
Yeah.
I can see AI actually picking stuff from different platforms and actually being that link.
Like being that bridge.
That bridge between different platforms and getting everything to work and, being that bridge between taking a lot of data and action in it. But actually, I don't think you can get away from that people element. I mean, that's got a little slogan where it's an art, it's a science, but above all, it's a service, and ultimately it's a service, and you can't replace that with AI.
Agreed.
A service is always got to be delivered by somebody. You need that customer service. You need that person at the end of the phone when all else has failed. Or you need that person, communicating, meeting with people. People want to deal with somebody, not just a robot. But I guess it can simplify it a little bit and take away some of those easier problems.
We'll have a chat in 20 years, see where it's at.
Yeah.
If we
just send my AI version.
Yeah, just the hologram, the Rob hologram.
Yeah.
Pop up in your living room. Hi. To be fair though, I have heard. Have you seen that? Have you heard of that ABBA show with holograms?
I have, yeah.
I had a friend that went to that. Apparently, it is bang on like they're there. It is amazing. The technology apparently for holograms is absolutely amazing. It looks.
I saw a hologram pop up in a park a couple of months ago, and it does look. Yeah, in the South Bank there was a hologram of something.
Really?
And it does look impressive.
Yeah.
Don't know how they actually do it. It must be a lot of smoke and a lot of lights and.
Yeah, I imagine it wouldn't look as good as in natural light, would it? Like, but in a dark. But apparently, my friend said it was literally, it looked like them. They moved like them and everything. It was just, it felt like they were there.
That's very interesting.
I know.
Technology just,
We've come a long way from the Tupac one, haven't we?
Yeah.
Mind you, I don't think Tupac's dead. I think that was probably him. I'm kidding. Okay, that's really, really good. So, how do you see the office evolving, Rob, over the next 5 years? Let's say. Do you think it's?
I think the big change has already happened.
Do you reckon?
I don't think most industries aren't going to go back to 5 days a week in the office.
I think it'd be very difficult to, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think we're on that trajectory that we're not going back. I mean, there's so many offices are empty on a Friday. Those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are just going to get busier. However, I do think, there is a drive to get people in at the same time.
Yep.
In which case you still need a lot of space if you're bringing a whole team in for a day, you need enough space for that whole team to work in an office. Course, yeah. So therefore you can't really shrink the office an awful lot. No. You can have those sort of drop down spaces, but you still need to be able to bring large teams in. So I mean, that's, I think Fridays are definitely going to be the day to get in FM to get stuff done on a Friday. If you program it on a Friday, you can definitely do stuff that you were doing potentially out of hours.
Do you think that's made life a little bit easier for FMs then? That you can get work done on a Monday and a Friday now that you historically wouldn't be able to?
I think so. And also the fact that actually, I remember when, if, I don't know, you had a fire alarm, the whole office would leave the office and they'd be gone for an hour and then they'd all come back in. Whereas now, if you have a fire alarm in most offices, people pack up their laptop and they're off and they're in a cafe or they're going home.
Yeah.
So I think there is that change.
Right. I've never heard that before, so that's quite interesting.
Yeah, people aren't. Whereas before you just lost time. Whereas, especially with the sort of more techie companies,
Yeah.
they're far more flexible. So if you've,
Well, they can work from anywhere.
They can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
If there's an incident in a building, they'll just go and work somewhere else. So that flexibility is definitely in there. But I do think, I mean, this is a lovely office that we're in today. And I think that's the move that more and more people want. They want nicer office spaces. They want buildings that are well looked after. They want buildings where they get an exceptional service, but they also want those buildings that have got either at a point where they're very sustainable or on a trajectory to be very sustainable. And those older, more sort of, assets that are, those buildings that are, at life end and got those poorer EPCs will just completely fade away because nobody wants to work in those offices. They're just not nice working environments.
Do you think a lot of them will move towards residential then, those kind of environments? Because if they're slowly... How do we use those spaces in future, I suppose?
It depends on where they are. The City of London is always going to be office space. So I think people are just going to, refurbish them, either reconstruct them or just make them into better assets. Or I think ones outside the town, I mean, you can already see there's a lot of old buildings being converted into student accommodation. There's a lot of old office buildings out in the suburbs that are being converted into residential buildings. So I think it very much depends on where you are in a city or country.
Are you seeing anything from a landlord perspective in terms of how they view it, in terms of where they see the changes coming? Or
I think there's a lot more focus on assets becoming stranded. I think that's making an awful lot of people nervous.
Right. Okay.
Especially when they've got sort of those poor performing buildings. But I think there is that move. You can see it up in boroughs like Camden and where people are going. Oh, if you're an office block, are you really moving to Hammersmith? Probably not. You'll want to be more in the city and the West End, which is where people are. If you've got to commute, if you look at a commuter journey, if you've got to commute out into the suburbs to go to the office, may as well stay working from home.
Yeah, true.
You want to be in an area of London where you've got stuff going on. There's a buzz.
It's vibrant. There's stuff.
There's stuff going on. That work and play becomes so much more important. Where people actually, they come into the office for that social side. A lot more than they were maybe previously.
Well, not everybody has a family or kids or people that they deal with on a. They get that much needed socialising from work.
So if you're coming in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you sit in the city all the time, the pubs are busy on a Tuesday. Where before on a Tuesday, when everyone was in 5 days a week, the pubs weren't that busy on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's true.
If you go out on a Friday now, the pubs are all empty. No one goes out on a Friday because they all go out Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Thursday's the new Friday.
Thursday is the new Friday. So I think that there is that sort of move to be. If you've got an office building, you want amenities around you. You want good transport links. You want a nice selection of sort of lunchtime shops and restaurants and cafes and bars and stuff like that. More now than I think there's ever been before.
Right. Okay. So that mixed use kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people are looking at the mixed use model, where you've got people that live, work, and play all in one place. I worked on a mixed-use estate for
more likely to behave then as well, aren't
they? I don't know. Some residential blocks in the city. I don't know if they behave.
No,
but I think there is a movement towards that mixed-use feel to a lot of developments, especially out in the suburbs where you can, or not suburbs but outer.
Yeah, the outer. Yeah. Okay, so final question. Nice one, this one. If you could jump in your own little adapt time machine, whiz your way back to when you started your career, what advice would you give yourself?
It's probably to be patient. Things happen, but not always at your on your time scale. So I think definitely be patient. Try and learn. I'd definitely be a lot more. I've gone into certain jobs thinking that, I've done it in this building. I must know it all. And then you get there and it's a sort of steep learning curve. So I think
kind of went in with the wrong attitude.
Wrong attitude, definitely. So I think definitely go in with an open mind and sort of, expect the unexpected. But yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Well, there you go, guys. Make sure you have a good attitude and expect the unexpected. when starting your career in facilities management. All right, Rob, that's it. How did you find it?
I mean, yeah, really good.
Yeah, did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause for Rob for coming to see us today and Wear Many Hats. As ever, please like, share and follow the page on LinkedIn. Help us grow. The more the community grows, the more people that will gain access to knowledge from people like Rob who have been in the industry and understand it. That's the end of another episode, guys. Thank you very much. See you later.